All right, world history. Let's talk about a little bit of how we got into the Renaissance. We're going to talk about three things real fast. These three things are necessary, in my opinion, for us to get to the Renaissance. So, to kind of bring everything else that we've talked about up to this point kind of to a little small culmination and help you to understand where the Renaissance came from. In my opinion, these are the three most important things. Okay. So, first of all, we have the Crusades. It's all the way over there. The Crusades opened up trade. Um, it sounds really counterproductive again, but as these European knights began to get a taste for the things that they could get off of the Silk Road, because if you'll remember, that's where the Silk Road dumped out. It's one of the major hubs, is where it dumped out, was into Israel. And so as these Crusaders began to get a taste for these things, they began to open up trade routes. They began to make trade connections because they wanted to get this stuff back to where they were originally at. All right, scoot over here to the Mongols real fast. The Mongols, you just watched, or you just got done talking about the Mongols. The Mongols are, I mean, they're some bad dudes, man. They're pretty backward, but they're some bad dudes, and they had some really good stuff going on for them. So like they spread trade, they opened up trade by protecting the Silk Road in return for tribute. So basically, they got paid taxes by merchants to protect them. And so it actually said that you could go from one end of the empire to the other end of the empire on the Silk Road with a gold plate on your head and not get robbed. And so with that being said, the Mongols opened up trade. And so that's kind of a thing you need to know. As they expanded trade from the Crusades and from the Mongols, as those trade routes began to expand and grow, cultural diffusion happened, just like it always does. If you don't remember what cultural diffusion or cultural synthesis is, it is the spreading of culture, spreading of ideas from one culture to another culture, just by being around them, by close proximity to another culture. So I always use the example of my family, if you go far enough back, is from Germany. A lot of my students' families are from Mexico and Spain. If you go far enough back in their lineage, and so when you get into Spain, when coming into Mexico, a Spanish tortilla does not look like a Mexican tortilla. Spanish tortilla looks like an omelet, and so those two cultures blended together to make the kind of tortillas that are way better than omelet tortillas, by the way. Matter of fact, you can anytime bring me a tortilla and I will eat that mug. The Mongols and the Crusaders opened up trade routes, and that's what's most important with them. So let's lead us to the last little part right here, the Black Plague. By the way, if you haven't seen that movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you have missed out. So the Black Plague is sounds a little bit difficult to understand, how it would be maybe a far stretch to figure out why it would fit, but here's the long and short of it. The Black Plague, or the Black Death, the bubonic plague, whatever you want to call it, it killed a bunch of people. So that sounds, again, really counterproductive. But if you look at the amount of calories that they could still produce, people didn't have to worry about where their food was coming from. And as we discussed with the Neolithic Revolution, as we discussed with all of these other things that came before, more calories equals I don't have to worry about where my food's coming from, and therefore I can worry about how to further better my life. It's this whole scale on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I've got things that I have to get done before I can think about the next things up the line. So you don't really realize that you're doing it, but most of the time your brain is subconsciously thinking about where your next meal is coming from. You're probably not ever even realize that you've done this, but if you're hungry in class, you're probably not thinking straight, because your body is saying, hey, you know what? I got to get some food in me. I don't really need to know this junk about the Mongols or the Renaissance or 2 + 2 = what? I don't care. The bottom line is I'm hungry, and if I'm hungry, I'm not thinking. So if I'm not thinking, I can't grow. Therefore, whenever the Black Plague happened and there are more calories, more food available for people, they don't have to worry about where that food's coming from. So as we go through the rest of this little bit of slides, Keep these three things right here in mind. This is the stuff that helped us get out of the Dark Ages and into the Renaissance.